countries, especially developing nations, that the money earned by national sports figures equals their national budget. I mean, when you consider, compared to what goes on, it just some of them they really commit themselves to some particular cause, and some of them just don't care. Which is sad. Are these standard bylaws of the sports club, I guess? Mark, these are standard bylaws of the sport club?
Yeah, we'll discuss them tonight. We have to review the bylaws tonight. Yeah. Somebody may have a proposed amendment. I mean, it's not immutable. Someone may, right, Steve, during the review and discussion, someone may move that they be amended for a particular reason. Yeah.
You got a cup of water back there? I don't want to drink, but just
As time progresses, then you can level it up.
I think the earliest, yeah, right out there. Well, the bylaws. Let's cut through it. Not all Christie's yeah. Well, it's only 5 up to 6. Well, John's going to be Santa Claus in Walpole tonight.
Oh, that's
I've been playing Santa Claus for like 20 years.
I know Cindy McDonald.
he's really, that come over with the bridge over the coast, man. And the funny part about it, the sad thing, there are two things. They had one there, they had one at Concord. And what happened at Concord?
They keep that on, but they can't keep it in the environment because the bugs or problems are usual, except it's a step further. These guys come back with a high school diploma. These people can't leave until they get a high school diploma. They have people standing in line going to college, and about 5% end up with the clinic. $19,000 average, which is lower than people that die in 24 hours in prison.
Stevie? You say slips, shifters, wonder. Just as me. So meeting with you for a second shift.
You can't get through with me standing here.
I'll give these back to Steve. So we'll find the one next door.
Sign there.
We never went there to come back to you. No, and I didn't want you to say, when I called, it was late. Steve? Steve?
More Steve shit today.
But I get your last name.
I wanted to. That's why I use that nickname from here. All the boys, funny because they have to do a show. Yes, Eric 1, Eric 2. But it's really Charles Stanley. I'm surprised it's low, Charles. Usually I find it in groups, at least 2.
Before we start, I just want to introduce everybody. Starting way down near the Christie's logo is Al Kodesh from Brockton Enterprise. And then coming right up toward me is Al Caldwell from Brockton Enterprise. Eric Erickson, who's been very active with children's programs and been trying to get the city of Brockton for years to establish children's programs. Eric Erickson. Lenny Alkins from Brockton, who's been active with kids for his whole life. Peg McGilvery from the Brockton District Court. Chris Myhouse from the city of Brockton, president of Christy's Incorporation. Mr. Ellison. Reverend Mike Walker from Messiah Baptist Church, who I believe everybody knows. Myself, Mark Lawton. Attorney Steve Murphy, who has been kind enough to have invested thousands of hours of his time to put together the bylaws, the corporation, the Constitution, the Articles of Incorporation, and so on and so forth, for which we're obviously very grateful. Attorney Jack Shields, who with his father runs Shields Healthcare, located here in Brockton. Next to him is Steve Bernard, one of my contemporaries, and a dear old friend of mine, Stephen Bernard. Nick Archicunas, any child who has missed more than 2.5 days in the Brockton school system gets to know Nick personally. Supervisor of attendance for the Brockton school system. Steve Young, longtime Brockton resident, who is a longtime educator. If you read the Brockton Enterprise, you'll always see a Steve Young letter to the editor, hailing you when you do good and criticizing you when you do bad. To my left, but to Steve's right, is a guy who's been involved in sports ever since I was a kid, Bob Richards, who was the suburban editor for the Brockton Enterprise. And wherever there is a cause for a child, you're going to see Bob. Steve Stathis, a local businessman, is next to Bob. Next to Steve Stathis is Sandy McMurtry, one of the McMurtrys in a long line of great athletic McMurtrys. Sandy was a Globe All-Scholastic, Enterprise All-Scholastic football player and roomed at Holy Cross with the hulk of a guy next to him, John Millett, who was a dear old friend of mine, who was a probation officer and works with kids every day. By the way, Sandy McMurtry works as an executive with the New England Tell and Tell. Two people over from Sandy, but next to John Millett is Joe McDonald, who, if you haven't met him by now, is the service director for the Northeast section of the United States of Boys Clubs of America. Standing up with his pet camera is my old pal John McParland, who was kind enough, on the first meeting we ever had relative to a boys club a year ago, John came with his trusted camera and committed to videotape the first meeting we had. Hopefully this won't be the last meeting, but in terms of significance, I would say that it's probably next in terms of significance. Dan Ring, who I met through Timmy Gomes, who was on our steering committee. He's in the white suspenders, sitting down. And Cindy McDonough, who is the director of the local office for children, and who was a tremendous advocate for kids of any age, is sitting here with us. Sitting between Al Caldwell and Cindy McDonough is a lady who I've become honored to have met, Sister Catherine McGuire, who is the director of the Lewison Home for children, and who I suppose if you watched Peter Jennings the other night, you would have saw Sister Catherine. But she really is a saint. She really has committed her life to servicing others. A wonderful, wonderful person. And again, I'm honored to have met her. Just before I turn it over to Attorney Steve Murphy, who along with Jack Shields and Steve Bernard will be running the incorporation part of this meeting, I just want to say that this meeting, like some of the other meetings that have preceded it, I think really do have historical significance, and that within the context of the fourth largest city in the state, with the third largest school population, that population being is, by the way, Gene Merrill. If you don't know him, you'll get to know him by the end of the meeting. Gene is a new headmaster at Brockton High School. Last time I saw him was at the Sullivan Stadium on the sidelines, cheering on his Super Bowl champion Brockton High Boxers, which is magic. But in terms of significance, I think this meeting is very significant because we're incorporating the Boys Club. And out of the 10 top cities in the state, the only city not to have a Boys Club is our city. And we do have the third largest school population filled with a need. 75 years ago, 1925, the Field family donated thousands of acres called E.W. Field Park. And I don't think there hasn't been anything as significant as that has occurred in the last 75 years until now. This is a very historical moment, I think, for children. Whether you're rich or poor, whether you're white or black, whether you live in Ward 5 or Ward 1, whether you're a good kid or a bad kid. What we're going to do tonight is provide more than land and lakes and trees. We're going to provide hope for a lot of kids. And I think that none of us should lose sight of the significance of what we're doing tonight. And hopefully we'll pay the close attention to Steve, Jack, and Steve so we can move swiftly through the incorporation and get on with business. And I want to thank everybody for coming. Thank you.
Well, what I'll do then is call to order the meeting for the purposes of organizing a corporation, be known as the Boys and Girls Club of Brockton, Incorporated. First thing we should do is select a chairperson for this meeting, and I'll make a motion at this time that we select Jack Shields to be chairperson for this meeting, and I accept a second of that motion if that's okay with me.
Okay, as a newly elected chairperson, I'd like to thank everyone for coming here tonight. We're all here for the common purpose of trying to do some good. We've had a lot of meetings around the city all summer, and now's the time that we come together to actually incorporate, so we have some legal significance, so we can go forward and actually put all our wishes and desires into something tangible like a Boys and Girls Club, and this will be kind of the taking off of the shackles, so to speak, so that we can actually go forward, find a site selection committee. But inherent in that, in the incorporation, most of us here have never incorporated anything. So what I'm going to do tonight is defer heavily to Stephen Murphy, who has spent a significant amount of time in trying to get our paperwork for the incorporation down pat. And we want to get incorporated this year, so we need to accomplish a lot this evening. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Steve Murphy.
The first thing that we must do is elect a temporary clerk who shall keep the records of this meeting until a permanent clerk is elected at this meeting of our incorporators. Do I have any nominations for a temporary clerk?
I'd like to nominate Stephen Young as a temporary clerk. I'll second that nomination.
All those in favor of Stephen Young being elected as temporary clerk for the purposes of incorporating the Boys and Girls Club? Now, Steve, you have to start keeping records of everything we do. You ready? Okay. All right. So, Andy, new.
This is, by the way, George County,
I'm sorry, Blank Kitty.
who still lives in a three-decker down in Ward 5.
I'm hoping that things will be better for me after.
I want you to meet also police officer Madge Vasquez, who has been with us since the beginning. Madge came in just before George, and her husband John Carr, by the way, is also a police officer. Steve, I'm sorry.
That's okay. As people come in, we'll introduce them. Where are the articles of organization? Are they out there somewhere? Okay, if we send them down, we can probably have some people who want to sign it.
Oh, you mean the
Oh,
signature?
yeah.
These, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Who has not signed these? I know a few people who just came in. Has everyone else signed them? Gene hasn't signed them. Okay, you're right. We need a name and address on one page, and we're running out. I suppose you could turn the page over and you can start write small, why don't you, and sign the other document. Next is the presentation of the Constitution. So that's one of the documents they had there. I'll proceed through it. After we finish each section, if there are any questions or anyone wants to make any comments or any additions, speak up, because this is where we speak up. This is the document that really creates the institution that we're creating, the Constitution. The bylaws are what the rules and regulations by which we operate, but this is what creates the Boys and Girls Club of Brockton. We'll probably go through it quickly. Article 1, basically, the name of the corporation shall be the Boys and Girls Club of Brockton Incorporated. some clubs are known as boys clubs, but nowadays most of the clubs are being named the Boys and Girls Club of a particular place. Joe McDonald, if you want to cut in anywhere, please do.
Anytime I
because
can
you're a
help,
lot
Steve,
more
I'd be happy
familiar.
to.
You're a lot more familiar with all of this than any of us are. I've also got, who doesn't have copies of the Constitution? We've got a... See, I'm running low on it. Here, why don't you share here, George? Mark, have you got one? Okay. Purpose of the corporation shall be to provide behavior guidance and to promote the health, social, educational, vocational, and character development of youth, irrespective of race, color, creed, or national origin, to receive, invest, and disperse funds into whole property for the purposes of the corporation. Section 2. No part of the income or assets of this corporation shall inure to the benefit of any private individual or member, making it a charitable corporation. Section 3. This corporation shall have no capital stock, its object and purpose being solely of a benevolent character and not for individual pecuniary gain or profit to its members. Article 3. Any adult may become a member of the corporation. So this does not restrict membership to Brockton. I think quite a few of the people here probably do not reside in Brockton. Section 2. In the beginning, the membership of the corporation shall consist of those persons who have been associated together to form the corporation. So the membership is this group right here. And any additional people who are not able to be here this evening, though have participated in since the beginning. Section 3. At the first meeting of the corporation and any annual meeting thereafter, the members may elect additional members by a 2/3 vote of the members present and voting. So we will determine at some point today when we're going to have an annual meeting and we can elect additional members. Membership, Section 4, shall be for an indefinite term and until a member is automatically dropped for non-attendance at meetings and removed for other cause. Section 5. Any member who is absent from 3 consecutive annual meetings of the corporation, the only meeting that you have a year of the corporation is an annual meeting. The other meetings are directors' meetings. The annual meetings of the corporation shall be dropped from membership unless re-elected. At least 30 days before the date of the next annual meeting, the secretary shall furnish to who is the clerk, shall furnish to the nominating committee the names of persons who were dropped from membership subsequent to the last annual meeting. Section 6. Any member may be removed from membership on recommendation of the Board of Directors by a 2/3 vote of the members present and voting in any special or annual meetings. Article 4. Meetings. The first meeting of the members of the corporation shall be held at a time and place to be fixed by those who have associated themselves to form the corporation, which is right here. This is the first meeting. Section 2. The annual meeting of the members of the corporation shall be held in the month of May. This was a time that was discussed by a few of us, and we thought that May might be a good time to meet because it would give us the next 3 or 4 months to get it all going and then have an annual meeting where we can get new members and elect new directors or make changes if we want. But it be held in the month of May of each year at a time and place to be fixed by the Board of Directors for the purpose of receiving reports of officers, committees, and the executive director to elect members of the Board of Directors and members of the corporation, and to act on any other matters that may properly come before the annual meeting. Notice that such meetings shall be mailed by the clerk or the secretary to the members of the corporation at least 30 days before the date of the meeting. I suggest at this point we call our clerk a secretary. So in the Constitution he's referred to as secretary, so we'll make it that. Secretary. Section 3. Special meetings of the corporation may be held at the call of the Board of Directors or of at least 1/3 of the members of the corporation. The secretary shall mail notices of such meetings to all members at least 10 days before the date of the meeting, and these notices shall contain the purposes of the meetings. Section 4. 1/3 of the members of the corporation present in person shall constitute a quorum at any meeting of the corporation, but in the absence of a quorum, a majority of those present at the time and place set for a meeting may take an adjournment from time to time until a quorum shall be present. Article 5. Nominating Committee. At each annual meeting of the members of the corporation, they shall elect or authorize the appointment by the president of a nominating committee of at least 3 members, and not more than 5 members, whose duty shall be to present at the next annual meeting of the members of the corporation nominations for membership in the corporation and nominations for members of the Board of Directors. If the appointment of a nominating committee by the president is authorized, the appointment shall be made at least 90 days before the date of the next annual meeting. 2, any member of the corporation may, at any annual meeting, nominate candidates for members of the corporation, members of the board of directors. Article 6, Board of Directors. The business, property, and affairs of the corporation shall be managed by a board of directors, which shall have the power to initiate and approve plans and programs for the welfare of youth club members, have custody and management of the land, buildings, equipment, securities, and all other properties of the corporation, adopt the annual budget of the corporation, borrow money, raise and disperse funds, invest and reinvest funds of the corporation, sell, buy, and exchange properties and securities of the corporation, make contracts, appoint the executive director, and appoint or delegate the power to appoint other employees of the corporation, fix the compensation of all employees of the corporation, perform all other duties, and have such other powers as may be necessary to carry out the purposes of the corporation. Section 2. The number of members of the board of directors who shall be members of the corporation shall be fixed by the members of the corporation at their first meeting, which is this meeting. And this number may be changed at any annual meeting, provided, however, there shall not be less than 12 members of the board of directors, exclusive of any officers of the corporation who may be ex officio members of the board of directors. Section 3. At the first meeting of the members of the corporation, 1/3 of the members of the board of directors shall be elected for 1 year, 1/3 for 2 years, and 1/3 for 3 years from among the members of the corporation. At each annual meeting thereafter, 1/3 the number of directors shall be elected for 3-year terms. If the number of the members of the board of directors is increased in any annual meeting, the additional members shall be elected in equal number for 1, 2, and 3-year terms. And if the number of members is reduced at any annual meeting, the term of the remaining members shall be adjusted as may be necessary to provide an equal number serving 1, 2, and 3-year terms. Section 4. All officers of the corporation shall be ex officio members of the board of directors during their respective terms of office. Section 5. The board of directors shall have the power to fill vacancies in its own membership. Such new members shall hold office until the next annual meeting of the members of the corporation. Section 6. A majority of the members of the board of directors shall constitute a quorum in any regular or special meeting of the board of directors. Section 7. At least 30 days before the date of an annual meeting, the secretary shall furnish the nominating committee with the names of the members of the board of directors whose terms will expire at such annual meeting. Section 8. Any member of the board of directors may be removed from membership for cause by a 2/3 vote of the members of the board of directors. Offices. The officers of the corporation shall be a president, 1 or more vice presidents, a treasurer, and a secretary, who shall be elected annually by the board of directors. All officers shall serve for 1 year or until their successors are elected. Section 2. The board of directors shall have the power to fill vacancies among the officers at any time, and officers so elected to fill such vacancies shall serve until the next annual meeting of the board of directors or until their successors are elected. Article 8. Executive Director. The board of directors shall appoint an executive director of the corporation, fix his/her compensation, prescribe his or her duties and the terms of his or her employment, and supervise and evaluate his or her job duties. This is the person that runs the actual physical plant, runs the boys club. It's an employee, actually. Bylaws. The board of directors shall have the power to adopt bylaws regulating the affairs and prescribing the duties of the officers and executive director of the corporation, which bylaws shall not be inconsistent with this Constitution. Article 10. The seal of the corporation shall be a circular impression of the words and figures incorporated, blank, date of incorporation, surrounded by the name of the boys club, name of city and state. And the Article 11. Use of assets on dissolution and use of income. This is a section we hope we'll never see. Upon the dissolution of the corporation, the board of directors shall, after paying or making provision for the payment of all the liabilities of the corporation, dispose of all of the assets of the corporation exclusively for the purposes of the corporation, in such manner or to such organization or organizations organized and operated exclusively for charitable, educational, religious, or scientific purposes, as shall at the time qualify as an exempt organization or exempt organizations under Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1954, as the board of directors shall determine. Any of such assets not disposed of shall be disposed of by a court of competent jurisdiction in which the principal office of this corporation is then located, exclusively for such purposes, to such organization or organizations as the court shall determine, which are organized and operated exclusively for such purposes. Section 2. corporation is one which does not contemplate pecuniary gain or profit to the members thereof, and is organized for non-profit purposes, and no part of any of the net earnings thereof shall inure to the benefit of any member or other individual. This constitution may be amended upon a two-thirds vote of the members present and voting in any meeting of the corporation, provided that a copy of the proposed amendment shall have been mailed to each member of the corporation at least 30 days before the date of the meeting at which the proposed amendment is to be acted upon. This constitution shall become effective immediately upon adoption by a two-thirds vote of the members of the corporation present and voting. Are there any questions on any section?
To help expedite the meeting, we're going to move to item number 7 on the agenda, which is the nomination and election of the Board of Directors. Okay. Okay. Steve Bernard will read the list of proposed members for the Board of Directors, and Steve Young will open it up for balloting. This should, for additional nominations. So this is not exclusive, but we will vote on it, and feel free to nominate anyone that is not here or has shown interest to be on the Board of Directors. But we've polled people who we thought would be interested, and these are a list of people who have shown some substantial commitment to Boys and Girls Clubs. So Steve?
And they include Jimmy Hawkins, Mr. Ellison, Nick Alchakunis, Gene Marrow, Robert Richards, Stephen Murphy, John Reardon, Al Anderson, Sister Catherine McGuire, Peg McGilfrey, Marge Vasquez, John Millette, Cindy McDonough, Timothy Gomes, Steve Young, Sandy McMurtry, George Carney, Chris Myhos, Peter Myhos, G. Myhos, Jim Guest, Eric Erickson, Bill Herman, Steve Staffis, Reverend Mike Walker, Sumner Kruskal, Mary Baker, George Cataldo, Dick Sproles, Peter Marciano, Jack Shields, Stephen Bernard.
Okay, can anyone think of any names or people who have an interest in being on the Board of Directors? I think, did we get Dick Sprouse?
Yes, we
We
did.
did, okay. He expressed a desire. Does anyone have any additional names? Okay. That's our completed list. Is there any, Mark, do you have any? We'll read through that list one more time, slowly.
Sorry that they're not in alphabetical order. Leonard Alkins, Mr. Ellison, what's your first name? James, Mr. James Ellison, Nick Alchakunis, Gene Marrow, Robert Richards, Stephen Murphy, John Reardon, Alphonse Anderson, Sister Kathy McGuire, Peg McGilfrey, Marge Vasquez, John Millette, Cindy McDonough, Timothy Gomes, Steve Young, Sandy McMurtry, George Carney, Chris Myhos, Peter Myhos, G. Myhos, Jim Guest, Eric Erickson, Bill Herman, Steve Staffis, Sumner Kruskal, Reverend Michael Walker, Mary Baker, George Cataldo, Dick Sproles, Peter Marciano. Jack Shields, and Stephen Bernard.
Without him, I don't think we'd all be here. We started it all.
Like the nomination, Mark Watt.
And Mark Lawton.
I would also like to nominate Dan Ring.
Dan Ring, R-I-N-G?
Yes.
Would anyone like to raise any issues or comments regarding the potential board of directors?
Yes, I would. In the absence of the person whose name is there on the board of directors, could he have someone to get informed, and what authority would they have about the voting power and so forth?
Okay, I'm going to defer to Steve. Steve's been putting together a corporation. I would, we think of Dan Ellison and,
Yeah.
I would think that we could make arrangements that the person could not be here, especially due to a physical impairment, that we could grant someone that power to sit there. I think it's up to the board of directors to do so. I think that it could be accomplished. We're a benevolent organization, and we don't want to turn anyone away.
The only reason was the purpose to know at the beginning where we stand.
Right.
Nan Ellison.
Yes.
Is that Nan instead of James, or is it?
It's gonna be Nan Ellison,
Okay.
but I'm here as the representative here.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, relative to Peter Marciano, Peter wants to help. Peter didn't confirm to me that he'd like to serve on the board. If we add additional people on in the spring, in the springtime, if Peter's wishes at that time to serve on the board, I think we should add him at that time. But I don't know what his business commitments are. Not that this would encumber his time, but he hasn't gotten back to me over the last couple of days because he has been busy. I would say at this particular time, leave Peter's name on.
Okay,
just for the time being.
We'll take Peter Marciano's name off.
For the time being.
Is there anyone else we have? Some people have been put forth.
Mr. Weiner?
Yeah.
Jerry Weiner?
Yes.
President. Judge, did you read his name?
I didn't read his name, but we'll include it.
What we're gonna do is all right, without any further ado, I'll make a motion that the clerk cast one ballot for all board of directors that have been nominated for the board. Steve?
I cast one ballot for the slate of board of directors.
I'll second that motion.
I'll second the motion. I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have the board of directors nominated and appointed. Okay, Steve, moving, okay, this meeting's, okay, Lenny?
I'll move that the nominations be closed.
Okay, the nominations are closed. This meeting is adjourned. We'll just break for 5 minutes. We'll be back to elect the officers and, finalize the incorporation. Just 5 minutes. Eric?
We elected the board of directors, but we also talked about the right bylaws. I'm just curious in terms of the voting body. Did we vote before we were named as directors, and therefore it's valid?
Well, you voted, your incorporators voted to adopt your constitution. Incorporators can do that if I'm not, incorporators can
Just
vote
a point.
to adopt your
The
corporation.
incorporators adopted the Constitution.
Oh, I
The board
see.
of directors have not acted yet, they've just been elected, so it's confusing.
Yeah,
The incorporators selected the chairman, adopted the Constitution, elected the wisdom.
To the role of the incorporators are to act as the adopting body to formulate your constitution.
Okay, so
You adopt
that-
it. Now your board of directors have to come in and deal with this.
I see.
Eric, one thing that we're gonna have to do before we adjourn, I nominate Steve Young as our clerk. But we also have to elect the treasurer before we adjourn. And Eric, you, since you raised it, and you also have financial background.
Wrong, but my
Okay.
financial
All
background
right.
is minimal. Insurance men are just barely making it today.
All right, well, let's throw it, this is democracy, let's throw it out to discussion. We should have a financial type service, our treasurer, and would anyone like to nominate?
I'd like to nominate Eric Erickson as corporate treasurer.
If you've got to have, I'm being straight out. If you've got anybody who has business finances, I'm serious. I withdraw only because that's not my expertise. If you said you want them to work later on with the youth and youth training is public speaking, I'd go into that. If anybody's here in banking or finance or somebody who knows, Jesus, take my wife. She's in banking, but she isn't here. Please, let me feel my way. It's my first meeting, and I like to go where I feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable in finances.
Is there anybody here who's got any experience in business or banking as far as, not legal work or that sort, but banking work that could is experience in being a treasurer? So that's an important function here, and I think the incorporators have to elect a treasurer. We made a motion to elect Steve Young the permanent clerk, but we have to make a motion to elect a treasurer.
All right, without further, yeah, I'll nominate Sandy McMurtry. This is something that we can, our next annual meeting will probably occur in May. And we need to get a treasurer to get, we need to get this off the ground. And I think Sandy's well versed in business to help us get there in the interim. So I'll nominate Steve Young as clerk and Sandy McMurtry as treasurer.
I'll second it.
I'll second it.
All right.
Oh,
Anyone, no objections, all in favor? All opposed? Okay, we have a new treasurer and clerk. Okay, what we'll do now is we'll adjourn. We'll be back to review the bylaws and finalize our incorporation. Was everyone just take a breather?
Review it as the board of directors. That sounds
By
right.
name, when they see me book cover of Eric Erickson, however, my wife sees it's a nickname. It's Charles. And it's very good for Charles. God, I remember sitting down to one of
Yeah, well, I was talking to a couple of people.
Oh, yeah.
My name up when it was mentioned. Well, I didn't know. Yeah.
Gosh, yeah, we lost that Mahoney gone, right?
So, bring some young kids up from the farm league. There's some potentials there.
All right, well,
Okay, I'm going to call to order the
4 days in the pool.
call to order the first meeting of the Board of Directors of the Boys and Girls Club of Brockton Incorporated. Just to briefly summarize what we're going to have to do at this meeting is we'll be selecting a temporary chairman, we'll be going over the bylaws, adopting the bylaws, then we're going to have to nominate an individual to be president, and we're going to have to nominate or individuals to be president, and then have an election, and we're going to have to nominate individual to be vice president or individuals to be 2 or 3 vice presidents. Probably better to have a couple of vice presidents. And as we go through the bylaws, you'll realize what these individuals' responsibilities are. And then we're going to be authorizing the president to chair the meeting and authorizing the president to appoint from the board of directors chairman of particular committees, and we'll probably bring up a few areas that we will be discussing either this evening or we'll be discussing at the next meeting. But what I would suggest is that we select a temporary chairman at this time, and
I'll move that Steve Murphy's our temporary chairman.
I'll second the motion.
all right, I think we should probably now go over the bylaws, just as we did the Constitution. These are the rules and regulations of the corporation. These are the rules and regulations that guide each one of you directors, each one of the directors, and why don't we start? Section 1, regular meeting of the Board of Directors shall be held monthly at such places and times as the Board of Directors shall designate. Now, before we leave today, we'll have to pick a date for our next meeting and a location. Section 2, special meetings may be held at the call of the president, who we will be electing, or of 1/3 of the members of the Board of Directors, providing a notice of the time and purpose of the meeting is given to each member. Article 2, there shall be an executive committee, a nominating committee, a personnel committee, a program committee, property management or building committee, public relations committee, legal committee, and insurance committee. The executive committee shall consist of the officers of the corporation, and the officers are the president. I'll just comment as we go through. The president, one or more vice presidents, the treasurer, and the secretary. So the executive committee shall consist of those people, the chairpersons of the various standing committees, and other such members as may be deemed advisable, which we can select who may not be officers or chairman of committee. The committee meets on call between regular meetings of the Board of Directors and assumes such duties and powers as are delegated to it by the Board of Directors. Now that each committee. The nominating committee shall consist of at least 3 members, exclusive of ex officio members of the corporation and Board of Directors. The chairperson shall be a member of the Board of Directors. Other members do not have to be members of the Board of Directors, so anyone who wants to be involved with the Boys and Girls Club of Brockton that you might know that's not on this board can be a member of the committee. We'll need as many people as we can as we go along. The nominating committee shall appoint a secretary from among its members, and that'll be done at the first meeting it has, who shall keep an accurate record of its meetings. Next committee is the Financial Development Committee, shall consist of at least 3 members, exclusive of ex officio members of the corporation and Board of Directors, and shall include the treasurer, Sandy McMurtry. The chairperson shall be a member, again, of the Board of Directors. It shall be the duty of the Financial Development Committee to report and make recommendations to the Board of Directors concerning all the financial affairs of the corporation. The Financial Development Committee shall appoint a secretary from among its members who shall keep an accurate record of its meetings. The Personnel Committee shall consist of at least 3 members, exclusive of ex officio members of the corporation and Board of Directors. The chairperson again shall be a member of the Board of Directors. It shall be the duty of the Personnel Committee to report and make recommendations to the Board of Directors concerning all matters of personnel. Of course, this would be our executive director and employees we might have. The Personnel Committee shall appoint a secretary from among its members who shall keep an accurate record of its meetings. Section 6. The Program Committee shall consist of at least 3 members, exclusive of ex officio members of the Corporation and Board of Directors. The chairperson again shall be a member of the Board of Directors. It shall be the duty of the Program Committee to report and make recommendations to the Board of Directors concerning the programs of the corporation, their relative healthfulness, safety, and adequacy of supervision. Now, before we leave tonight, Joe McDonald has some books that explain about all these committees, and there are books that tell all the types of programs that all the different boys clubs in different areas have, boys and girls clubs have. And this program committee is a very important committee because they have to set up everything that functions from sports all the way down to arts and crafts, everything. And we might have psychologists available, things like that. We don't know, but the program committee is a very important committee. I'm sure if any of you would want to be on any of these committees, if you're not selected as a chairman, it would be great. The program committee shall appoint a secretary from among its members who shall keep an accurate record of its meetings. Section 7. The property management or building committee shall consist of at least 3 members, exclusive of ex officio members of the corporation and Board of Directors, and again the chairperson shall be a member of the board. It shall be the duty of the property management or building committee to report and make recommendations to the Board of Directors concerning, first of all, the selection of a location in a building, but the maintenance of the building and other properties of the corporation, including the retention of adequate limits of property and casualty insurance, and and the provisions of safety and loss prevention programs for the guidance of the staff. It's a lot more to putting up a building than just putting it up. The Property Management and Building Committee shall appoint a secretary from among its members who shall keep an accurate record of its meetings. Section 8. The Public Relations Committee shall consist of at least 3 members, exclusive of the ex officio members of the Corporation Board of Directors. Again, the chairperson is a member of the board. It shall be the duty of the Public Relations Committee to report and make recommendations to the Board of Directors concerning all matters of public relations, and they shall appoint a secretary as in the other committees. The Legal Committee shall consist of at least 3 members and should handle all legal matters pertaining to the Boys Club operation, including compliance with local, state, and federal legislation and regulations. They shall also have a secretary. And the Insurance Committee shall consist of at least 3 members and shall include the services of a competent insurance broker who need not necessarily be a board member. Reviews the insurance portfolio of the Boys Club annually to determine that adequate limits of coverage are kept in force. Develops and gives board leadership to a loss prevention program to assure the safe and healthful operation of the Boys Club. And again, they shall also have a secretary. Now the president, consider who will be making nominations for a president shortly. The president shall preside at all meetings of the members of the corporation and of the board of directors. So at our annual meeting of the corporation, the president will be presiding, and each and every member of the meeting, the president will be presiding. He or she shall appoint the members of all committees and be an ex officio member of all such committees. Sign such papers as may be required by his or her officers and may be directed by the board. Make such reports and recommendations to the board of directors and to the members of the corporation in any regular or special meetings concerning the work and affairs of the corporation as his or her judgment may be necessary for their information and guidance. Request from the treasurer, secretary, and executive director. Such reports as in his or her judgment are necessary and perform such other duties as may be incidental to the office. Vice presidents. The vice presidents, in the order named by the board of directors, shall perform the duties of the president in case of his or her absence, resignation, or inability to act. Again, you can elect 1, 2, 3, 4 vice presidents, whatever you want. Secretary, also known as the clerk, shall issue in writing all notices of meetings of members of the corporation and board of directors. Notify individuals elected to office or the membership of the corporation or to the board of directors. Keep complete records of the meetings of the members of the corporation and the board of directors, including an accurate record of attendance of members. Notify the nominating committee of persons dropped from membership in the corporation for non-attendance or other cause. Furnish the nominating committee with a list of officers and members of the board of directors whose terms shall expire at the next annual meeting. The directors that we elected at the meeting of the incorporators, 1/3 of those directors are elected for 3 years, 1/3 of those directors are elected for 2 years, and 1/3 of those directors are elected for 1 year. Now, 1 year from now, those elected for 1 year will be re-elected. After 2 years, they will be re-elected. Mail such other notices as may be directed by the board of directors. The custodian of all records of the corporation, except such records and papers as shall be kept by the treasurer, as herein provided. Sign such papers as may be required by his or her office or as directed by the board of directors, and perform such other duties as may be incidental to the office. The treasurer. The treasurer shall receive all monies of the corporation and have custody thereof. Shall deposit the funds of the corporation in one or more banks selected by the board of directors to be dispersed in accordance with the directions of and upon the signatures of persons designated by the board of directors. Keep a full account of all monies received and paid out and make such report thereof to the president and board of directors as they may require. Receive and have custody of all deeds, securities, notes, contracts, and other financial papers of the corporation and place them for safekeeping in the safe deposit vault of a bank designated by the board of directors and under such rules of access as such board of directors shall determine. Keep full account of all deeds, securities, notes, and financial papers of the corporation, and make such reports thereof to the president and board of directors as they may require. Cause the books of account of the corporation to be audited at least once annually by a public accountant approved by the board of directors. Cause to be prepared and present at each annual meeting of the members of the corporation a comprehensive financial statement, including the report of the accountant. Sign such papers as may be required by his or her office or as may be directed by the board of directors, and perform such other duties as may be incidental to the office. He or she may be required by the board of directors to give such bonds as they shall determine for the faithful performance of his or her duties. Now, a bond, I believe, is required, isn't it, Joe, by the national?
This is a self-governing autonomy organization. There's no bond,
There's
you
no
know, not,
bond required, we'll
not-
probably have one, but there is
yeah.
no bond, I thought there might have been.
not
a
required
bond
by
required on
national. Recommended to the local organization.
Article 7, the executive director. The executive director is the person who runs the boys club, really. The executive director shall manage the affairs and direct the work and employees of the corporation, subject to and in accordance with the directions of the board of directors. Prepare budgets of expense for the approval of the finance committee. Be authorized to incur expenses in accordance with the approved budget or as directed by the board of directors. The executive director shall attend all meetings of the board of directors unless otherwise directed by the board of directors and shall be an ex officio member of all committees. The executive director shall from time to time make reports of the work and affairs of the organization to the president, board of directors, and members of the corporation at their annual and special meetings. The fiscal year of the corporation shall be the calendar year, and these bylaws may be amended by a majority vote of the members of the entire board of directors in any regular or special meeting called for that purpose, provided notice of the proposed change is given and the notice of the meeting at least 30 days prior to the meeting. Is there any discussion on any particular sections of the bylaws? Any questions, any discussion?
Just make a suggestion to you so that it conforms with the name of the organization, that where the word Boys Club was used, be replaced by the word Boys and Girls Club.
There were some spots in there where
Yeah.
the boys. Any other discussion or any comments? Do I have a motion?
Just one question before we vote on it. Did you say the treasurer was bonded, the treasurer of the corporation, is the treasurer bonded, or is that something that can be decided by the board of directors?
I believe it. I thought the treasurer had to be bonded by the national rules, but Joe
It's not-
says no,
it's
so
not
it's
national
something,
requirement.
it's something that.
We can still require it.
I think we probably will. It's one of the topics which at
The
the
board
end
of
I'm gonna bring up.
directors.
There's a million of them that you have to discuss probably at this meeting and the next one. Anything else? I guess there is a motion on the floor to adopt the bylaws, that the board of directors adopt the bylaws. I don't think it's been seconded. All those in favor?
All right.
All right, at this time, I would again comment that probably the most important person to the board is the president, because the president chairs the board meeting. And at this time, we do not have a president, and we should now take nominations and elect a president. So if you want to look again at Article 3, that gives the responsibility to the president. He's pretty much in charge of anything. He's a member of every committee. He has to be reported to, I would think, by the committees. And I would, any discussion or any questions regarding the office of the president? Bob?
No, I'd like to make a nomination, if possible. We've all been together way back since a year ago in the summer back in the church. Someone who's really impressed me, is really caring, who's been involved in this, and I know his heart is really in this, and I think we're doing an outstanding job. I'd like to nominate Jack Shears for the position of president.
I'll second that nomination. Wonderful.
Are there any? Chris?
I'd like to nominate Mark Lawton.
Mark?
I spoke with him.
Let's hear
Let
it.
him declare.
Mark, you've been nominated for president. I don't know if you've heard on it.
Well, I just hope my chances are better than Michael Dacus. All I would like to say is that I don't believe that I can accept the same because of my own position. I think I can be on the board, but it's a very sensitive area, to be perfectly honest with you. Ordinarily, I'd say yes, but I honestly think that it would be a disservice to the organization, to the now incorporated Boys and Girls Club if I did it and then were told by the Judicial Conduct Commission that I was violating the Judicial Code of Ethics. It's a real sensitive area. So I would suggest to you that whoever moved my name as president, I thank that individual for having faith in me, but I would very humbly say that I really shouldn't.
Chris Miles nominated you. The there any other further nominations at this time as to, for president of the Boys and Girls Club? Further nominations? I'd like to nominate Steve Bernard as president also.
I'll second it, whoever Steve is.
Any further nominations? Right, now, my secretary spent 2 hours making up written ballots, and we're gonna be able to use them, I think. So I think this should probably be a closed ballot, I would suggest, so what I'm gonna do is we have a number of people here, so could you, see what, Gene, could you pass some of those out on that
Thank you,
side?
everybody, Timmy Gomes, who was a member of the board and was one of the prime movers early on and did a lot of legwork going through the projects, getting kids to come to the public hearings we had during the summer. Timmy Gomes came in, and he came with Remus and Jim, 2 Brockton kids who didn't believe that the boys club was going to happen, and they had to see it themselves. So Remus and Jim came with Timmy.
Hey, there you go. You see that? Wonder on meeting pizza too.
Because you knew we were going to have pizza. Okay, there's some pizza in there.
Everybody got balance? Vote early enough.
Gene, we need, Gene's got some, Timmy. There you go.
Mr. Chairman, not wishing them to have a long discourse, but we have in our Toastmasters Club a 2-minute extemporaneous speech speaking about yourself if you're a new member. Could possibly each of them speak a little bit about their background for 2 minutes, say, 2-minute maximum? So we know who we are, because I only know one little bit.
Okay, that'd be a good idea. Who wants to go first? Alphabetical.
Okay. Steve Bernard, a longtime resident of Brockton. Will be 40 years old in June. A graduate of Brockton High in '67. Graduate of Babson College in 1971. And have spent the last 15 years in the brokerage industry. 13 of those with Merrill Lynch, and the last 2 with Dean Witter. I'm not only a lifetime resident of Brockton, but I'm heart and soul Brockton and the area, and committed my life to staying in the area and working with and developing my own family, certainly, and the youth in the community. I'm a member of Messiah Baptist Church, a member of the NAACP, and various other organizations throughout the city. I look so forward to getting this boys club up and running as we have done tonight, and servicing with as much time with and away from the family as I possibly can. Thank you very much.
Back to Paul, Steve.
Just speak louder, that's
Yeah.
all.
I'm Jack Shields. I live right over here on Thorny Lea Terrace. I went to Boston College High School, then I went to the University of Notre Dame, then I went to Catholic University Law School. I have 2 children. I have a wife, Kathy. I was fortunate enough to get involved this summer in this Boys and Girls Club, and it was a great opportunity to meet people like Steve, Lenny, a bunch of beautiful people. I'm committed also to bringing Boys and Girls Club to Brockton in any way, shape, or form that I can. I plan to be a lifelong resident in Brockton. I'm involved with family business in Brockton, from the Murphys and the Mackins way back in Brockton. That's basically it. I'm just in any way, shape, or form, I'm here to help bring this beautiful project to fruition here in Brockton. We all know it's needed. Thank you.
Are nominations closed? Any other further nominations? Nominations are closed. And
Mark your ballots and If my first official act, I'll count them, send them around this way. Write legible, please. Print.
Done?
Wasn't any bud flowers.
Appoint Steve assistant clerk to secretary to help count the votes. If you guys wanna, we can go outside and count the votes and we can take things
Yeah,
out of order.
we'll adjourn to the other one.
Anybody else, any other votes
Right
here?
up with the votes and all that.
Says Price Waterhouse going out.
Do we have everyone's ballots?
All the ballots in.
Judge Lodge, did you vote?
Can't do this
Yeah.
stuff.
Fortunately, the candidates have not spent as much as the presidential candidates, so what happens after we do the voice vote? I think it was the first meeting after starting.
I've never seen anything like it. Have you? You've seen football games anyway? Never seen
On this agenda,
Let alone the baby.
Mr. Milena, I'm gonna put you Sergeant at Arms, take care of these. I have 25 names and addresses, but I only have 18 signatures, so 7 people didn't sign this sheet.
Oh, you know what? You didn't make it clear.
Yeah, so I need the signatures on this sheet too, otherwise we can't submit it. So anyone who has not signed this sheet, please, sign it, I'll pass it. Pass this one down.
You have to put the corresponding number.
I did,
Okay.
well, nah, I don't think it has to be the corresponding number, as long as the names are there, it's okay. If I had to do that, we'd have to do it all over again.
Yeah, that's what I was hesitating a little bit. We were talking about committees, and I figured, well, maybe that really isn't, a youth representation committee, it's a subcommittee of the program committee, since that's what's reaching that.
I know, see, he said that.
I think you have to sign a vote, you have to name and address. Print one and sign the other, but it doesn't, as long as the name's there, it's all right, I think.
Those are both on one sheet, I didn't see the second sheet. I'm never sure which one was. Keep it going, maybe it's in the...
Whoever wrote their name and address on this one has to sign.
Well, I think
The other one.
Did you sign it?
No.
You signed your name.
I don't, but I do this. Sandy, if you wanna do this, jot it down, anywhere right over here, name and number, or, address, I'll be glad to get you what I can.
Yeah, because it's difficult, if we're going into a Boy Scout meeting to organize a Boy Scout, I haven't come back, because that's where I started. But the Boys Club one, I'm really here because of my uncle who spent 40 years, 30 years, he was in banking, and he said it was the finance. He really saw the change.
Billy's falling out for the swamp. You're holding all the front pages. New president there.
That's right, Chairman, that's the result. Reverend Walker should be just on one of those.
So Reverend Walker's signature is missing. That's all, right?
Walker, is he here?
I think he's gone to preach.
What church?
He has a class.
Church, is he across the street from me?
Yeah, across the street from you at the sign.
Who knows, can someone call him and ask him to come across to, call him, tell him to come to my office? Let me just check, I just gotta check this.
When do you want him to do that?
Anytime.
Yeah.
You decided either one, did you? All right, let's see.
Just move up towards Mike.
Okay, the only signature I need, Steve, is Mr. Walker's. Can you just have him come across to my office, we can get that, we'll be all set. All right, the results of the voting are in, and I'm gonna ask the clerk to announce the results for the election of president.
The results for the election of president were Steve Bernard, 14 votes, Jack Shields, 9 votes.
So the new president is... This time we, as the board, we can authorize the president to begin chairing the meeting, which is Steve Bernard, and I will sit down. And the next bit of business will be to decide on how many vice presidents we want to elect, and then to nominate the vice presidents and elect the vice presidents. And Steve, the chair is yours.
All right, my first question to you, Steve, is the president able, can the president nominate the position? The next order would be...
Can't say why not.
Okay.
It's up to the board. How many, well, I would think it'd be up to the board.
No, I would think he holds the same power as any board member.
Should hold no less.
No less, yes.
I think it's very important that we have a vice president or vice presidents, in this case, since the job is awesome, and we need to enlist all the talents of the people who know most about the organization and where it's come since the summer and where we want to go and the direction we want to take. And, I would like, as my first act, to nominate Jack Shields as vice president.
Second.
All in favor?
We have first vice president, and we can stop, or we can have first vice president, second vice president, third vice president. Now we have a president, and we have a first vice president. For unanimous vote.
Makes us looking forward.
So,
The bigger the bank, the more vice president.
we have a treasurer, and we have a secretary clerk at this point. So now that, with two more vice presidents, and we'll be, if we want them. Now, do you have any discussion on that, as to why we should have more vice presidents, or do we want more vice presidents?
I think you should have more than one vice president, by virtue of the burnout factor. You have to groom people that may be material to succeed the president, because these are all one-year terms. And if you get a president who serves more than 2 years, regardless of how good a job that president may be doing, you know, it's still a volunteer effort, and you don't like to abuse your volunteers. So, you know, I think that if you have more vice presidents, they get to understand what the president is doing, and then you can make that orderly move into the presidency and not put any pressure on the existing president to feel that, you know, look, what do I have this for life? You know, so.
Eric, did you also have?
Yeah, I find that, in fact, that just relating to the organization I belong to, we only have 30 members, and yet we try to have at least 2 areas. In our group, in the Toastmasters, there are 2 vice presidents, each covering a different area and reporting to the president. And I would say that the vice president or president might want to attend one or more of the committee meetings during the year, and you've got about 8 or 9 committees down here. So I would think that alone, you know, we all are giving our time here, so I think we should really look at how much time we can give. And I would vote for 2 vice presidents at least.
I'd like to open the floor for further nominations for vice president or second vice
I'd like to
president.
nominate Chris Firehouse. I respectfully decline, Mr. Connie, and I hope you won't get mad at doing that. I'll go to the next one, Lenny. I'll second that.
Just won't frequent Christy magazine.
Nomination for second vice president, Leonard Hawkins, and is that seconded?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Opposed?
Well, the third one, Mr. George Connie.
Honestly, I really appreciate it, but I couldn't do that. I wouldn't have the time. It's not that I wouldn't have the time, but I wouldn't really want to out-support the organization, but it would be very difficult.
I'd like to nominate Steve Murphy for all the work that he's done.
I'll second that.
Steve Murphy has been nominated for the second vice president and has been seconded. All in favor? Third vice president. All in favor? Opposed?
Nomination is closed at this point.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President?
Yes.
May I return to just one moment? Just before we move on to the next item, I just request to be taken out of turn just for a wee bit, if I may, to introduce a member of the board, well, either Timothy Gomes or Cindy McDonough, for the purpose of introducing 2 young people who I had introduced a little bit earlier, because I think it's important that, because we're here to serve children, they being our business, and I think they having to be our business, that we hear from 2 big children, and we don't mean to disparage you kids just referring to you as children, but I'd like to introduce either Cindy or Timmy just for 1 second, if we may.
My name's Timmy Gomes, most people know. Can you turn that camera off, please?
Timmy, we want to get you on tape.
No, I don't want.
Like, I was out there, and there's nothing out there. I mean, like, I was arrested and stuff like that, just because there's no good role models or whatever, you know? There's no place for them to go, so they just all go out and do drugs, and they just hang around. They do nothing with their lives.
The 9th grade junior, right?
Yeah. And they do nothing with their lives, and they just need somewhere to go, whatever like that, you know? That's all I gotta say.
All right, Jeff.
My name is Remus, and I'm freshman in high school, but yeah, I've been out there too, and all of my friends, they're just hanging around because there's nothing to do. I was in the boys club in South Carolina, and I do think the boys club is good, so you can have somewhere to go after school instead of just, you know, hanging out on the block or doing whatever. So I have to say.
Good.
I would like to make a motion that we have 2 youth representatives on our board of directors, and I recommend Remus Gates and Jim Kelleher as our youth representatives.
Second.
I second that.
Any discussion?
I would say that, as in all committees, as I see it, that this be subject to expansion as those that we feel who have an interest and also the motivation to do that which it takes to help us to make a strong boys club. So that, fine, I would certainly be in favor of nominating these two gentlemen, as they would hope to support us, but that we do not limit it to just two, maybe to 6, but I don't know, I think.
Should be a little more than 2 as far as support, and also for people who would just show up, since you want a committee of 3 or 4 to where you have 3 to make a meeting.
Any other comments?
My comments is that where we are a boys and girls club, I feel that for how many boy representatives, student representatives that we have on our board, there have to be females equal, because they have to have a say as to what they want out of a boys-girls club, because it is going to be a boys and girls club. So if we take 3, then it's going to have to be 3 young ladies, so for a total of 6, which is not really a lot of representation, but it's a healthy representation, because I think that if we're going to be working for you, we need to listen to what they're saying as to what they feel would be helpful for them in the Boys and Girls Club.
Then, Mr. President, I would like to amend my motion to read that we accept the youth representation from the 2 young men that are here tonight, and that we increase that to equal representation for young women as well.
The amendment, any discussion on that?
Is that as an ex officio capacity or voting privileges?
I'm not sure. The legality of,
I think they should sit as a regular board member. Because we're here to serve children, the youth of the city, and if we only have, out of a, for instance, a 31-member board, 3 or 4 youth, I think that's an honorable and a good thing to do, but I think it would be the wrong thing to do if we were to look at them merely as tokens, unable to exercise themselves in the fullest manner possible. Our organization is to give hope to children so that they can express themselves and achieve the goals that are supposed to be achievable in this country. And I think we put a limit on that hope if we say to youth representatives that you can only sit for the purpose of being a token for the youth of our city. I think they should be able to express themselves and vote to the extent that I can or anyone else. And I would say this, I wish not even to serve on the board if these young men don't have the same right of voting that I would have, because I think they're in a better position to appreciate the wants and needs of children than do I. Although I was there one day, I haven't been there for quite some years, although I wish not to say at this point. But I think that they deserve to be on. I think that we're obligated to ask that they serve in the fullest capacity possible. I don't know if I've made myself
Let me ask Joe
I think
McDonald.
they should sit as a full board member.
Joe, is there anything in the constitutional bylaws of the national organization which would prevent Mr.
No, there's not. I just have to check with Steve and just on the legality of what we said, and if we said members as adults earlier,
I was under Article 3 of the membership of the Constitution.
that may create a legal problem that way. But you know, as far as their involvement and participation, I see that as no problem. But I just want to bring that to your attention as a legal issue.
Let me suggest to the board that we take the time to investigate this, and certainly we are committed towards that, towards the same purpose. And I agree with Mark that they should have full representation and full rights if the rest of the board agrees. But first we want to find out if it is legal. So should we defer that maybe to the next meeting and come up with an answer from Steve and Joe?
So relative to the nominations, are you suggesting that we put in abeyance the nominations until such time as we resolve that shadow issue?
I think we have to table them, because I do read that right now the Constitution reads an adult may become a member of the corporation, and then the further reads that the number of members of the board of directors who shall be members of the corporation. So it implies it has to be an adult. Now, I can do some research on this, and Joe, can you check with the national organization?
As far as the national, there's no problem. I just wanted to make sure legally in the Commonwealth, and since the Board of Directors has the power to fill its own board until the next annual meeting, as far as I'm concerned, legally, they should have full voting privileges as suggested. Because that's what it states. The board has the right, to
Page 1, first page, because it's not numbered,
I
and
think the
page
board can amend its
4.
own rules.
That was the only point, it said adult, and I was just saying that we have to amend the bylaws.
It's not the bylaws, it's the Constitution, it's not the bylaws, you can't, you don't amend the... Wait a minute now. Wait a second.
Whatever has to be amended,
Oh, yeah, this is what it gets on.
Get 'em on.
Let me just look at this for a minute.
Mr. Chairman,
You say you have to...
as I've been a past member of several board of directors for state organizations, the Department of Social Services and the Office for Children, and it's not uncommon to have voting youth membership. It's not unheard of at all.
The NACP has a national organization and it has youth members on their board. And they have the same voting rights and power that any other member do. Now that all has to go in the Constitution though.
That's right.
I think that I might ask the advice of our legal counsel, before we make to maybe cut the conversation here and ask him if it is the appropriate thing to do now or wait till the next meeting. Certainly, I believe that we're in agreement that we'd like to do it, but I would not want to do something that,
My suggestion would be to do it at the next meeting, as long as it's legal in the Commonwealth, that we just amend the Constitution to, at the time of the next meeting, we can just call it a special meeting. And we can say any person may become a member of the corporation instead of any adult. We can do that at the next meeting.
But don't you have to have a 30-day notice to amend under this charter, so you're gonna have to
Well,
give notice?
I suppose we can vote to do it now if it's
Right.
legal.
Yeah,
You
I
wanna
would
vote
do
to
it.
do it now and it's
Vote
legal?
on it now.
Vote to do it now, don't wait because you'll be in
I'll make a
violation.
motion that we do that subject to the legality of the approval of the, Would you repeat that, Mr. Klein, please? I'll make a motion that we go forward and say that we make it possible, say that 6 youth members can be on the board, 3 that must be male and 3 female, and that, for the rule is come down, we'll vote to change the constitution of our bylaws, something if it's all right with the laws of the Commonwealth.
Let's second that.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded by Chris Nyhos, all in approval, all in favor?
All right,
Opposed?
Is that to change it to any person may become a member of the corporation? I keep it very broad instead of restricted. We may at some point want more people. Okay, so, I'll check that and I'll just have it changed. I'm sure it's all right. We'll just change the bylaws.
So the nominations will be tabled until such
No.
time?
No, we voted on it.
members of the board.
Congratulations. Now you're gonna get a board member, too.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Boy, years, that's marvelous.
Well, I was impressed.
Take it from there, we'll let you sit, kids stand it back.
Yeah.
He paid the bill as fine.
This
members, because he has other assignments.
Just one second. Just one second.
Joe, do you wanna hand out, Joe? You can hand out those books to as many people as you can. We don't have enough to.
We'll only be taking another 5 more minutes of your time. Each of you have the board members' handbook. It's one of the functions of the president is to appoint chair people to various committees. Rather than doing that this evening, we're going to give a summary of what is to come in the next meeting, so that you'll all have the time to think about it. And I'll defer again to Steve Murphy to give us a summary of some of the events.
At the next meeting, we'll be considering appointment of chairman of the particular committees, nominating financial development, personnel, program, property management, public relations, legal, and insurance committees, all of which should have chairman from the board. If any of you people have any interest in those particular areas, you would probably call Steve, I would think. Call Steve and let him know.
Just call me, and you can rest assured that I'll be calling you to discuss with you which committee you'd like to serve on, or chair in some cases, and discuss the reasonability behind the qualifications of serving on that committee.
Again, the chairman has to be on the board, but the members of the committee do not. So if you have any people that you think would participate and like to be involved, you can give those names to Steve. Or you can call Steve Young, who's the clerk, also, and give him the names. Any of us, really.
Want to write down my phone number? It'd be easy for everybody to write it down. I'm never home, but 587-4009. Just leave the message with my secretary, my wife. And then you can reach me at work. 325-2727. And you can leave a message with the secretary, and I'll get back to you.
The secretary can contact Steve if you can't get Steve. He's out of the way. Also,
yeah, I think why don't you let's see.
And my home number is 587-0562. For the 508 and 617-654-9266 is the work number. 654-9266.
Or the last 4 digits, 587.
0562.
Is there any way we could get it directly, all, even if we had to pass the thing around now with our
Okay,
name, we just write our name, address, and phone number, we could have it typed up.
piece of paper. Maybe we could do that if we could send it around and the secretary could take care of that. Joe.
Yes.
Federal identification number.
We have most people here.
We have to apply for nonprofit, you know.
501c.
Yeah, 501c.
What's the name of the fellow who's got family member of his is...
John
Reardon said if
IRS.
he would help us with that.
In the meantime, we can use the mother corporation's federal ID number?
If you, yes, yeah.
Is there any problem with doing that?
I don't see any problem with doing it. You know, what you'd be doing is asking Boys Clubs of America to have trusteeship of your funds. They, you know, and that's all they'd be holding, because they are presently, you know, a nonprofit organization and get their federal tax exempt.
Do we have forms where we have to seek their approval of anything?
Well, you have a form that has already been submitted as a project to use the name and signature of materials of Boys Scouts of America. That's already been signed when this was as a project status. So that's already in place.
Nothing else?
No, not at this time.
Well, I'll work on getting a federal ID number. I'll call John Reardon. And otherwise, I've got a fellow in Boston that might be able to get us one.
We're circulating on paper now for names, address, and phone number.
Do we have, okay, we have to have an address of the corporation on the, wherever I did with it, the articles of organization. Wherever they are, they're somewhere here, the originals. It's not there. what should we have as our address? Should we get a post office box? Should we have the Boys Club office? And can we have your office, Joe, or should we get a post office box? What do you think?
Actually, a post office box would be the best way.
We can get a PO box.
Can I get P.O. box?
I'll get it.
West Bridgewater fine, or Brockton, or does it matter?
I would go for Brockton, if you're gonna go Brockton, yeah.
Can you get one, Steve? Donna,
okay.
just keep record of how much, what size do we want? We don't need that.
Steve, can
Well,
you,
I'd have to accept
do you want
checks.
one to use
Yeah.
temporarily?
You gotta feel a good size one
You
for
drop
all
that,
those checks that are
get a
gonna go.
bank.
Right.
Not yet.
Oh, yes, that's right.
It doesn't cost that much anyway, we have a small one now, costs I think $10
Obviously, there's gotta be,
a year.
put that out for bid, because the bank
If you go a
gets
little
some-
larger, it's like $20,000.
Steve? Steve? Do you need a post office box to use until you get your own?
Yeah, what do you,
2508, box 2508 Montello Station.
is that yours?
That's my business. And that can be used until you can apply and get your own.
We can get one now. We can get one right away. We can get one, I think. I think we're all set. Thank you, though. Just get one. Yeah, if you can get one downtown. Okay. Next meeting, where?
Okay. Could I say something before you choose a meeting place? Now, we know that we just put Nan Ellison on there, and then maybe some others sometime, somewhere along the line wanting to come into it. And if at all possible, could we try to find an area where it would be more accessible for the handicapped? Climbing those steps would have been real rough for her tonight. She'd make it, but it's real rough in there to climb the steps. So that's the only request.
The date for the next meeting, Thursday, the 5th of January, or the 12th, which, the next meeting will be on the 12th.
Yeah, 12 is good.
How long is that?
Thursday evening at 6 p.m. And tentatively, the meeting place will be the Messiah Baptist Church. And we will send out cards. And that may not be a place that is accessible for the handicapped. We'll take that into consideration if between now and then. But is there difficulty there?
No, that's accessible except going up to the
Up to
upstairs.
the hall upstairs. Okay. Messiah Baptist Church, 80 Legion Parkway in Brockton. 6 p.m., January 12th, 1989.
Oh, yeah. I got 88 down there. I don't know what you're talking about.
You'd have been a whole year late.
That's right.
And I assume that this is notification enough?
No.
No, you gotta have a no notice because that has to
Yeah, I'm
confirm.
getting off that easy, Steve.
All right, everything has to be in longhand, promise.
So when are these meetings?
Skip, I gotta do it.
Do they come before the group and basically make a decision?
You might want to discuss it with the group. Bring them forward. So what you do is you just let us talk to them.
Have your attention, please, concerning the date of the next meeting. Steve Murphy is unable to make that meeting until 7 o'clock. And we could move the meeting until back to 7 or up to 7 o'clock
every time we get a bite to eat before you come.
Yes, and I suggest that we do that because Steve's very, very important to the meeting. So we'll make it 7 o'clock as opposed to 6 o'clock on January 12th at the Messiah Baptist Church, 80 Legion Parkway.
Steve?
Because my wife don't eat.
I was kidding, isn't it?
Cheese really is.
Christmas morning. Under the tree.
Somebody who's willing to work, I mean, those are the areas that are.
Potential.
Yeah, that's enough. That's enough.
Along with the notice, we'll be sending out an agenda for the next meeting. Any last comments from the?
I would like to make several,
Yes.
Steve, but I'll do it very quickly. First, I'd like to present to you, this is a cartoon that Ed Germani did for us that stayed, was in the paper, and as the official head to remind us what we're doing. A chance to get them off their current clubhouse, and Eddie has signed that and wished us best luck. And then,
Wow, that's nice, huh?
on behalf of the youth of Brockton, I want to give you all this keychain to remind you what you are.
We need the keys though.
I don't have it. That's what we're going to do. You're going to give the kids the keys to the city. If I miss somebody, we'll get you the next time around. Okay. I have a personal comment I want to make is that, I got 2 more here. And some of you know that I've lived in this city for 20 years. And some of you I know are Catholic. And I went to church this morning. You think of what feast day today is and what this is. There's no way this organization is going to fail. And I do have 60-second spot. I won't keep you long, but I think in this 60 seconds, if I did this right, you will find out what the Boy Scouts all about. Now, this is our latest spot.
Be right back.
When Michael first came to the Boys Club,
And if you cannot attend meetings, please contact one of the officers and let them know. Because, the reason that they've asked you to be on this board is because you've made a willingness and a commitment that you can be here. And if we're not here to the meetings, then how can we expect our youth to want to be part of what we're doing? So, that's important.
Thank you. Yeah, for kids in the city. We're building the boys club. We're trying to build a boys club.
Steve, did you get the youth names?
Make sure.
Sign it. Make certain that you sign that. If it's
Jimmy,
right behind us.
Makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it?
before you leave, make sure you leave your name, address, and phone number.
So being
On
done
that
right
sheet
now.
of paper, so I can get a hold of you. January 12th. 7 o'clock.
All right, that take it out. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.